Oh, Bretto.
What's up, MP?
Damo just called.
Yeah?
He thinks there's going to be 100,000 people at the Wellness Summit.
Oh, again?
He thinks we're bigger than Michael Jackson, the Rolling Stones and the Beatles all put together.
Damien Christoph has gone completely mad.
Did you know he's made 8 tons of forage?
What?
And now he wants you and I to help him get rid of it.
Oh, Damo.
So look, being the good friends that we are, we've asked him.
You mean forced?
Well, we've kind of twisted his arm to make him literally give his forage away to 100 lucky Wellness Summit attendees.
So if you're ready to enrol for our signature 2 days of inspiration, education and empowerment...
And entertainment.
What do you mean, MP?
Well, Australian Idol winner Wes Carr makes his Wellness Summit debut this year, Bretto.
Wes Carr, you'll be guilty!
So if you're ready to be entertained, head on over to thewellnesssummit.com.
And get 4 value bags of forage muesli or 1 bag each of paleo, muesli, bircher and porridge when you register.
Now, all you need to do is register for this 2-for-1 special, bring a buddy, bring a friend, bring a family member or a colleague.
And then choose your forage selection, 4 muesli or 4 assorted, and get 4 bags per attendee. That's 8 bags per double pass.
That's almost $250 of forage for free when you register for the Wellness Summit on August 25-26 at the Collingwood Town Hall in Melbourne.
That's 150 serves of breakfast. Almost 6 months of breakfast just for registering for the Wellness Summit.
Well, it's first in, best dressed. These 100 tickets are only available until June 18 or until sold out.
All the details of this special offer, all the topics, featured speakers and more are over at thewellnesssummit.com.
Thanks for making 8 tons of forage, Damo.
TheWellnessCouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cindy O'Meara, Karen Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Karen Smith.
I'm Kim Morrison.
And I'm Cindy O'Meara.
And I'm sorry that I'm sounding quite nasal. It's not purposeful. I just actually was very conscious and I was like, I'm Karen Smith. Hi. Sorry, everybody. Just a little bit of a flu bug. Most importantly, though, we have got an amazing guest on with us today. And I think this little chicky baby is somebody that we all love and adore, who has been a part of our lives for a number of years. And honestly, the moment I met Vikki Kelly, I felt like I had found a soul sister. The most genuine, authentic, gentle, stunningly beautiful women that I think I've ever come across. And what makes Vikki so special, and one of the reasons why we've got her on the show with us today, is because she's got such a profound message that is really moving the hearts and minds of millions around the globe around mindfulness. Now, Vikki has written a book called Mindful 2.0, and she's going to tell us all about her background and her story and her book and why she does the work that she does. But I wanted you guys to know that, you know, this is a woman that's important to all of us. She's played a big role in all of our paths, and we are so grateful to have you on the show, Vikki. Be very afraid, my friend. Welcome.
Well, I am. I was just thinking, wow, look at the time. I think I need to go. You've built me up and been so kind with your introduction of me. I don't want to mess it up.
Well, we're very excited to have you here with us, lovely one. We really want to talk to you about, you know, your story and who you are and how you've come to build the message that you have, because I think that, gosh, you know, we are all in such a state where we've got so many questions about how to come back to a place of mindfulness, how to come back to ourselves, how to focus on the inner world rather than the outer.
A lifelong project. It's funny, Karen, that you say that talk about who am I?
Yes.
A few years ago, I had a little awakening, as we all have, and my life became very different as I knew it. I was married at the time, and my then husband decided that we both needed to move in a different direction, and I was on a part of a speakers group, and they were promoting me, and I went in for an audition for some big program in Aussie, and I was auditioning, and they put the camera on me, and I was doing really well, doing my cool spiel, and then one of the people that was auditioning said, "So, aside from all that, who are you?" And it was one of those pivotal moments that, because I was in the trenches, I was deep in the mud and the sludge of this new, this transition phase. I broke down. There was snot everywhere. In front of the camera, and had basically a massive meltdown, and got benched. I got benched by my promoters for a year.
Oh, you poor bugger. There's nothing worse, is there?
It was a good reminder. It really catapulted me into, I really need to get some shit sorted.
Oh, yeah. It's very cathartic. Tragic, painful and hurtful, but very cathartic.
I think most of it, when I look back, hindsight's always 20/20, and I think some of my most amazing times and best learning experiences come from really difficult moments, and so may have been one of those. I'm sure we can all relate to that. Hey, girls, thank you so much for having me on your show. I am always very starstruck by one of you, let alone all three of you, and I love to snuggle. And I was wondering, as I was coming into the call, how I could be middle spoon, but.
Vikki, I would love to ask a question of you, and I know you've done lots of amazing things, and I just would love to know what got you started and hooked into this wellness journey. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, for me, it began in my and the wellness journey. I think in terms of overall well-being or vitalism or wellness. I'm not sure that I'm that far on the journey in some areas, but for me personally, it was my emotional well-being that was the catalyst for me. And as a teenager, I sort of a middle teens, 16 plus, I had an experience with sort of in the spiritual esoteric world. Some things began to open up for me, and I began to have some experiences that not many other people were having, and so I entered the spectrum of either being spiritually gifted or a schizophrenic who was in need of some shock treatment. And so I was on that spectrum, and at both ends, on one arm was being pulled of I'm spiritually gifted, and the other side was you're not gifted at all, you're nuts, and we need to intervene here. And so in the middle of all that, I serendipitously got food poisoning and went to a GP, one of those late night GPs, and he said, "Oh, hang on a minute, you need to come on retreat." And so that was my very first experience and exposure to meditation, and I went on a 3-day silent retreat when I was in my late teens. And from then on, it was in that moment that I recognized, on about just coming out of day 2, that I wasn't my thoughts, and that I was the observer of my thoughts, and I was the observer of what my body was doing, and I had some choice in how I could map and engineer that. And that from that moment I fell deeply in love with the contemplative nature of humanity, and that's really been my life on and off ever since. And if I look back, it's I studied hypnotherapy. I started studying behavioural science at La Trobe, and when a long time ago, girls, like 20 and a lot more years ago, when studying behavioural science, it was all negative emotions, and I'd had my fair share of negativity, and I knew very deeply what the impact of negative emotions on me, and I wanted to study the positive side, the nutrient value of our emotions, and that wasn't available then. It certainly is now. And so I dropped out of La Trobe and studied to become a hypnotherapist, and specialised in conversational trance, and from there went straight into training and development, and was connected with the chiropractic world. And so that's where I've been ever since, really, on and off. But when I look back, most of my training and development, most of my teaching centres around the contemplative nature of ourselves. So the inner work centres around our inner work, whether I'm teaching that we're answering the phone, or teaching eye contact, or teaching communication or philosophy, it all starts from the inside out.
But would you say, though, that everybody is aware of this, or what's your indication or understanding of how we as human beings approach this then?
No, well, I think that before we hit record, I said one of my passions is to demystify this thing called meditation or mindfulness, and in such a way that it becomes a normal part of our daily living, to be able to simply pause and take a breath, and to breathe and know that we're breathing, to sit and know that we're sitting. That in and of itself that's mindfulness. And when we're mindful, when we're present, and we're just more available. When we're mindful, we just naturally make better choices about what we put into our body, better choices about what comes out of our mouth, in terms of what we say, better choices about changing and shifting our habits. And we know that, to change habits is hard. It's really hard, because we're wired not to. We're wired to just for Groundhog Day in many ways, and our brain is really good at creating habits. Many of the habits that we have, though, we haven't consciously chosen, so we haven't mindfully chosen. They've sort of been, we've inherited them, or they've been dumped upon us, or they've happened by default. And so mindfulness, and particularly the work I do, is all about being able to just have an awareness of what it is we're thinking, or how it is we're behaving, and then if we choose to make some changes with that. And when we're mindful, we're more available to be able to do that, not only for ourselves, but also then to connect more deeply and engage and build that interpersonal coherence, if you like, with each other. Because we're all wired to want to hang out together and snuggle.
That's true.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen you go up to people, Karen, and snuggle them.
I'm a big fat snuggler.
I don't know. I think you're picky. I think you'll choose who you snuggle with. You wouldn't just snuggle anyone.
That's true.
Animals, she would.
All animals. We all love to snuggle animals.
Yeah, she's a complete, floozy when it comes to animals.
There even is value. There's lots of data out there that talks about the value of snuggling with animals, or even snuggling with inanimate objects like teddy bears.
How cute. So what does it actually mean? Oh, sorry, Kimmy.
No, I was just going to say the same thing, darling. Well done.
Oh, right, you are great minds. There it is.
Yeah.
Mindfulness, there it is. See connection across the waves. What does mindfulness actually mean? I'd be so keen for you to, what you said earlier, demystify what mindfulness is, because a lot of people don't know. I remember I said.
I mean, there's a variety. Mindfulness is sort of is the new black in terms of emotional well-being, and it's one of the big conversations of the last, particularly 5 years. And so, initially we had diet and exercise as two of the big conversations. And many decades ago, if somebody had said, "Let's get outside and go for a run," like you beautiful fit spos were talking about before we started recording, about how you're going running and doing all these amazing exercise things, 40, 50 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, if you'd said that, we would have said, where are you going? Where are you running to? Whereas now, if you don't run, you feel guilty. I even had a little bit of guilt about, I haven't exercised today, and actually I haven't even thought about it. And then the diet realm came into it. What we're putting into our body, we really need to be more mindful and conscious of. Again, a number of decades ago, we didn't have to be as conscious and aware of that. Part of that, I think, is, and I can be corrected here, Cindy, is because of the level of processed food and fast food that we have available to us now. And so as we move forward, I think the next big conversation is around our emotional well-being. And just as we have PE in our schools now, which didn't used to be, and we have the eating and nutrition part of our learning, even though it may not be the way that the right way necessarily, but there are those conversations going on within our schools, within our corporations, within our organisations. The next big conversation, I believe, is this thing called social and emotional learning, and at the very core of that, mindfulness-based social emotional learning. And so mindfulness in its essence is literally just being here, just sitting and knowing that you're sitting in an open and non-judging way. And so it's that just that open awareness. So it's that as we sit here, if I can bring my attention to my feet and feel the floor under my feet, I'm being mindful, I'm paying attention. So it's calling our attention back from the past, where I've been today, or the future about when my next meetings are, or what's going to be for dinner, or whether or not I have to clean the house, and back to this moment of being first and foremost connected with myself, and then secondly connected with all of you three beautiful humans.
Oh.
You know, it's interesting, Vikki, because I agree with you with, first it was exercise and then it was diet, because we've gone away from our evolutionary body's need for things, and we just were living in this modern world that never stops. And if you have a look at people's reactions when they see, let's say, a group of Australian Aboriginal people sitting on the floor, on the ground, and just sitting there and enjoying each other's moment, the ground under them and everything about it. And I what I'm seeing at the moment is, and I'm seeing it everywhere, and everybody seems to be talking about it, and I have no idea why I'm seeing this, but it's called the biophilia effect. The love of nature and what nature can do for us. And, even being out in nature, when you're out hiking, and Karen and Kim and I, we've had some amazing hikes. And there is nothing that you can do when you're out on that hike except absorb the electrons and the minerals and the atmosphere and the sunshine and the rain and whatever is there. And I, for me, find that one of the most meditative, I'm in this moment right now type of things. And we're actually seeing the science behind the importance of not only nature, but settling the mind down and eating well and exercising and doing all these things. And it's almost like we've come full circle to what was naturally in our own innate nature that is now we have to really think about. And that's what's, I think people are kind of going, oh my gosh, I got to put my feet on the grass. I was listening to this lady who I met her in Leeton, Young it was, and she works for Helen Patteran, who's a really good friend of all of ours. And she was saying that Helen had a retreat in Byron, and the amount of women that had come from a town and had never put their feet on the ground, and they were just blown away by the feel of the grass under their feet. And that's why I think we need to be reminded of this. I think we've forgotten that this is our natural way and this is the way we should do it. Miss Karen? Feet on the ground.
Yes, love. Yes, love.
It's called earthing, Karen. Earthing.
Yes, but we can still do it 5-star. Do you know? I just want to say there's such a thing as 5-star grass, 5-star earth, 5-star camping.
But do you?
Oh, I'm always going to be a brat.
You will. But do you see that, Vikki, that it's almost like we've lost that natural ability to be mindful, to be meditative? And I don't think it really means that you've got to go sit on a rock although the rock will give you that earthing, that would be good. But to go sit on a mountain for the rest of your life, I think we can still live a modern life. We just have to be more aware of this evolutionary body, not this modern body, and its needs.
Exactly. And you're exactly right, Cindy, in that they're not mutually exclusive. And there's been a lot around the invasive or intrusive effect of technology. We've all got multiple devices. We often have multiple platforms open, and technology is, it's like it's the awful thing that is ruining our minds and ruining the minds of all of our young people. And it's not technology, because technology has helped us in many, many ways, but it's our relationship with our devices. It's our relationship with the technology that we need to look at and reassess. And that's where, in Karen, is in those beautiful words, where we go inwards and do our inner work. And I think just as we've organically been able to eat well and organically been able to move our bodies, because that's what we did for our work and our life. And now, as technology has afforded us more time to be able to do these things, what it's also done is saturated us with stimulation that's unnatural and takes us outside of being mindful. And so that's why I believe that this next conversation is around our emotional well-being. And particularly, we just need to look at our young people, and the rate of anxiety and depression and youth suicide is at a level that is horrendous and is really alarming. And that we're taught to read and write and the sciences, and now we're recognizing the value of learning how to be with ourselves, how can we experience joy really easily, how can we bounce back from setbacks, because they're going to happen, how can we play well with others and do meaningful work that makes a difference in the world, so that we get to leave the world a little better than we found it. And in all of that, how can we be present to this experience? And mindfulness is just one way to be able to facilitate that in ourselves.
Vikki, I'm just sitting here thinking, it's when a person's mindful, they're present, they're in the moment, but also too, when a person's present and in the moment, there's also no conversation. Like, there's no commentary about the present experience. So there's just experiencing the experience for the experience's sake, rather than experiencing the experience for the meaning that we make. Ooh.
Wow.
Hey, that rhymed.
Brilliant.
Oh, she doesn't know it. She is the
Just stop it. That was pure brilliance.
Lucky it was recorded.
Oh, totally. But lucky I was present to the moment of it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so when we're not present, when we're in the past or the future, we're having commentary in our mind about the nature of experience, of what's just happened or what could potentially happen. But when we're present and mindful, like you're saying, there's actually no commentary. There's just the experience. And if we can, my hope and wish is that if we can get to that, is that then if we're not making meaning of the experience and the experience doesn't mean anything, then we might very well save ourselves from self-destruction and self-implosion, because most experiences, if given the chance, we're kind of wired for negativity. We're not wired for positivity necessarily, unless we're working.
The evolutionary hangover.
Yeah.
Luckily we were though, girls, or we wouldn't be here today. Remember that.
So talk to us about all of that. What's that?
So when I say the evolutionary hangover, it's that to survive and to evolve, we naturally had to be more attentive to threats, because a threat that we missed out on today was a pleasure that we would never get to experience again, whereas a pleasure that we missed out on today because we noticed the saber-toothed tiger eyeing us up as a meal, we were then able to get away from it or fight it or do whatever we needed to do to survive to the next day, so that we could experience pleasures. And so although we don't have predators chasing us anymore for our survival, we do have this evolutionary hangover in the brain that has a bias towards threat. And we would all have noticed that. You know, we can have heaps of great things going on in our day, and that one thing that we did wrong or didn't do that we should have done, our brain keeps taking us to that. And so it's one of those things that, and there's some contentious ratios out there, but the ratio is sort of, Barbara Fredrickson, who's a researcher, had a ratio of 3 to 1. We need to experience and be able to remember and remind ourselves of 3 positive experiences for every 1 negative experience, to have our brain in the mode of just beyond neutral. So what we know about the brain is that it works most effectively when it's in a positive state versus in a state of neutral, negative, or stressed. And so even in neutral, because of that bias towards negativity, we're not, the brain's mode isn't as great as if it is if we can just have the pin a little towards positive. And that doesn't mean that the glass is always half full. It just means that we're able to enjoy the positive moments, those micro moments that Kim talks about, those mild but frequent micro moments of positivity, that we're able to enjoy them as best we can in the moment, but we're also able to easily recall them. And that's another example of a mindfulness practice, is being able to, at the end of your day, those 3 things that I'm grateful for, or 3 good things, to be able to think back and say, what was great about my day? It'll be easy to find what wasn't great and what you need to do and what you should have done. Sometimes it can be a little more difficult to search between the weeds, if you like, to find those beautiful flowers that exist and act as nourishment, like a superfood or a supplement for our brain health.
Oh, the silence. Everybody's very mindful.
I was just thinking how poetic it was, and
absolutely,
and taking it in as to what that is all about, and putting that into practice.
And we can put it into practice so easily. It's one of those what we're learning more and more about, and in the last, and particularly in the last 5 years, the contemplative science that's out there. So the data that's out there that lets us know that what we are doing is making a difference, and lets us know that we can fine-tune some of what we're doing to really make a more meaningful difference. And it's ironic in one form. I think it was you, Cindy, that talked about in the olden days, as we've evolved, what used to be normal to walk through nature and just be able to be in space and time in a present way. Now we're trying to engineer it and manufacture it through these things called mindfulness practices, and we're waiting for the science, the evidence base, to say which one's the best. Is it mindfulness practice? Is it Zen meditation? Is it loving kindness practice? Which one gives us the best data? And so that's, I think, the ironic part about science. And I'm all for science and evidence-based, but I'm also very cautious not to rest everything on science. And somebody asked me just last week in an interview, if science said that mindfulness didn't work, would you still do it? And my answer in a heartbeat was yes, because it works for me, and I've seen it work for so many people. And so the upside of the science, though, is that it is catching up, and it is taking mindfulness off the cushion and getting it into our daily lives simply by a breath. And what we're learning is one breath makes a difference. If all our beautiful tribe did, as a result of this podcast today, was just remember to take one mindful breath once a day, that breath has a compounding effect on the nervous system, on our brain. And as I said, that breath just rebalances and restabilizes and acts like a really powerful nutrient to the brain.
You know what you said about... Oh, sorry. No, I was just interested in talking about the breath. And then if we add something like an aroma to it, like an essential oil or a beautiful natural perfume that we love, do you know much around that and whether or not
so
that
I know what I love to smell. What in terms of the contemplative side of it and the mindfulness side of it, there's a whole industry and study out there around those things like frankincense and myrrh, which we know have come from religion, and yet in the East they're still using those oils for their meditation and contemplative work. The great thing about smell as a sense is and particularly essential oils, when again we can take the elements and properties out of those oils that we've studied and learnt about, and break through that the blood-brain barrier. It doesn't have as many restrictions, and so the effect on the system. And Kim, I feel like I'm backing up, going, I'm speaking to the expert here, but from my understanding is it has a very profound and fast effect in the nervous system. Particularly with that 10th cranial nerve, the vagus nerve. And in the Eastern philosophies, we call the vagus nerve the internal wandering Buddha. It wanders around regulating and balancing all of our hormones and systems and organs, so that we can be in our best selves.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love it.
So, for instance, a cold shower for your vagus nerve, a cold shower, jump in the shower, do all your business, wash yourself and love all your bits and bobs, like Kim says, wash all your, I love you, I love you, I love you, all of yourself. And then at the end, have a 30-second cold rush, and that stimulates your vagus nerve and improves what's called your vagal tone. And so that's...
and your brown fat.
Oh, gosh. I'm sitting in the shower. I can't believe it.
It is. It improves brown fat, which increases your metabolism. That's what the whole thing with that breathing guy is all around, and the guy that does all that cold Wim Hof really strength. Yeah, him. He talks about that, and it's all to do with the this thing called brown fat. So keep going. I love it. But yes, I just thought I'd throw that in.
Oh, there you go. So we can shed our brown fat. We can connect our systems and integrate and balance out all of those systems in our body so that we are at our most available, and it just helps stimulate our social pathways particularly. So those pathways, we're biologically wired to connect with others, and what stress does is shut all of those down, because we go straight into survival. So anytime we're in low to medium grade stress, what we all tend to do, and I'm sure we can all relate with this or remember a time when we've done this, is we shut down from those around us and we're not as available. And so by stimulating our vagus nerve and improving our vagal tone, it opens up those pathways for social connection, which are very important for not only our well-being, and we know it's the number one, our social connections are number one for our markers of well-being, but also so that we can procreate and live well together and play well together and have a whole lot of fun with the people around us.
Do you know what I also find interesting, and I'm going to go back to that vagus nerve, is another way that the vagus nerve is stimulated is by singing. And all of our cultures sang, song lines and singing. So we did this naturally without the cold shower, but we actually did it naturally by singing. But we don't all sing now unless we've got the music on in the shower or in the car and we're yelling at the top of our voice. But
it can come back. We can return to what you're saying in terms of that rather than things being engineered, they're more natural. And so what does occur in mindfulness practice is, if we're meditating on loving kindness, for instance, what people notice as they meditate more, that they have bubbling up of feelings of love, of connection, of kindness naturally, without having to orchestrate or engineer it. I think we've just, for lots of reasons, wired ourselves in ways that are natural to us now. they are natural to us now, but they're not that helpful to us. And so by first and foremost recognizing that, that's the first step of particularly our emotional intelligence, is having awareness. What am I feeling right now? And can I feel whatever I'm feeling in an open and non-judging way, without trying to hide it or fix it or shift it or get rid of it? Can I just feel it and label it? And just doing that releases it in a way that is quite mind-blowing.
It's really hard to do when you're in a rage or you're mad about something, or to catch yourself. To catch yourself between the stimulus and the response.
It's not the guarantee that if you sit, even if you sit on a cushion. I have a deep formal practice in meditation, and as I said, I've been meditating for more than 30 years, and some days I'm still a raving banshee woman. Lifelong practice. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to walk around and not be knocked off balance or not be owned by people or situations. But what it does do is it boosts the chances that your calmer, more present, more open and available self will be available to you, and it won't abandon you at those times. Yeah. Because that's what tends to happen. Our sane, rational, kind, beautiful self runs for the hills and something else comes out. All mindfulness does, all these mental practices, if you like, do, is boost the chances that in those difficult times that your more ideal self is going to be available. It doesn't guarantee it, and it certainly doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to your world is going to change significantly. However, your perception about what's going on in the world will.
I'm still stuck on the fact that you talked a lot about the fact that through the vagus nerve and everything, that part of that stimulation is about being around in a group, and it's about hanging out, having fun. You also mentioned the word procreation in the same thing, and then Cindy mentioned a cold shower. I'm just wondering what the order is for all of those.
Dear.
Honestly, it was
Hashtag
really
I'm still stuck there picturing a whole group, and you said there was a whole group of us that we'd all enjoy all of that. So I'm just thinking, okay, so my next question then is, I do apologise.
Should I brace myself for this next question?
Yeah. Well, we know that we are tribal creatures. We love being part of a community. And we also know that it can feed us when we're around like-minded people or people that raise our souls and our spirits. What would you say to our listeners that are in that mindset, but they live with or are related to people that aren't in that mindset? How do you practice mindfulness without wanting to killfulness somebody that's not actually on the same path as you?
Well, as I said, there isn't any guarantee of that. You still may have those impure thoughts, Kim. So you still may have those impure thoughts. You just, when you're mindful, you have the choice of where you're going to action yourself from. So you're creating a space between impulse and action. If you have those killfulness thoughts, and then you take a breath and you say, do I still want to attend to this? And you do it mindfully, then
you can't be done for murder.
Well, it's one of those situations that it brings out all of those things that are great about us. And what I believe in my heart is that we are born to be good. We're born to be good. We're born to be kind. And what drags us away from that is life and experience, and sometimes some really difficult situations. However, when we can be mindful, that ability to act and behave from a kind place is more available to us than it is when we're in reaction.
But I think, Vikki, the challenge, and we get a lot of emails asking us this, is that a lot of our listeners are definitely on this path and they feel around their own tribe or like-minded people they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you've got a relative or a partner or a child that is constantly challenging you and pushing you, you know, at some point the humanness in us comes out, and we struggle to keep feeling like we're being attacked. So are you saying that the more we practice mindfulness, perhaps through the art of meditation, that the more likely those comments or that inability to connect with people that we have to be around, it becomes more like water off a duck's back? It doesn't matter because they're living their own world. There's less judgment around people, you wanting people to see it from your angle. Is that what you're saying?
In a nutshell, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think it's important that people can choose to live in the way that they choose to live, and we don't have to necessarily, the activists in us want to corral everyone and have them agree with us and do the things that we do. And so we attract these like-minded people around us who are on a similar path, or some are ahead on the path and are calling us and inviting us to a higher level of mind, and others are behind us, and we get the opportunity to invite them along and call them on this same path, this journey of well-being or vitality or whatever it is that we would love to call it. There are people who don't choose to be part of that, and as soon as we have resistance to that, why not? Why don't you want to come with me? Then that sets up a discord. And so what our mindfulness practice does, and particularly there's one beautiful practice that comes to mind, is the loving kindness practice, the metta meditation practice, where first and foremost our kindness is directed inwards, and we can think or imagine ourselves, may I be healthy. May I be healthy and happy. And then we think of someone that we are close with, an intimate partner, a member of our family, and we say, may you be healthy, may you be happy, as part of our practice. And then we think of somebody that is benevolent, like our checkout operator, or someone that we come into contact with regularly, but we don't actually see them. And we bring those people to our heart mind and say, may you be happy, may you be healthy. And then we bring someone to mind who we may be having some difficulty with, or is having a difficult time, and we ask, may you be happy, may you be healthy. And then we include all sentient beings, all living beings in that. And that practice can take a few minutes, or it can take 50 minutes or 3 hours. And simply by doing that, there's nothing woo-woo about it. It doesn't mean that other person changes, but what it does mean is that you change. It boosts your chances of, when that person pushes back on you, instead of matching them or picking up the rope and having a tug of war, you let the rope sit and you allow them to pull and to kick and to scream, and you have as much compassion as you can for them. It just boosts the chances. It doesn't guarantee that. It just boosts the chances of you being able to be available to their pain or to their side, to be able to walk in their shoes and understand, and even if you can't understand, to at the very least accept where they're coming from.
I think it's always a challenge, isn't it, in the humanness of ego and wanting to be right or seen as right. And I at the moment, I know my daughter is struggling with somebody that's really pushing her buttons, and it's been interesting how to support and coach her through this. And a lot of what I've said, because it's very easy on the outside when your buttons aren't being pushed as to why they would be why they wouldn't, why is that affecting you? That's not how people see you. But when you're in it, and when you're really being affected by it, it's just, I love that practice you just said, because if nothing else, it's almost like you need the mind to be doing something else. And I think this is where Karen has always been so good for Cindy and I, is that we often both will say that, what would Karen say right now? What would Karen tell us to do? Because she's an anchor for us. And I guess in a way what you're saying, Vikki, and the work you do is also another anchor. It's sometimes it's in the moment of conflict or struggle that we least have the intellect to conceptualize what it is that you're asking or suggesting that we do.
Exactly, it is. It's really easy to be kind and open and warm and loving when things are going our way. You know, when the people that we've got around us all agree with us and lift us up and are our cheerleaders, it's really easy to be kind and generous and open and available. The rubber meets the road, though, when things aren't going our way, when we're having setbacks, and when we're in survival because of something that's occurred, either a relationship difficulty or a work difficulty, or some part of our life has become a struggle. That's where the rubber meets the road, and that's why our emotional well-being practices help and support us. It's sort of, our emotions are like a muscle, and our mindfulness, we have a mindfulness muscle, and we can strengthen that to boost the chances of when things aren't going our way, because it's a fundamental truth. Suffering is a fundamental truth. When things aren't going our way, who am I going to be? Do I even have a choice? Well, sometimes I don't, because I'm so reactive, and the nature of stress reduces our perspective and closes us down so that we can survive. But if we're practicing doing our mindfulness-based practices, and this is just one way that we can train our emotional well-being. We can strengthen and cultivate all of those things about our emotions that keep us in a balanced way. If we attend to our emotional well-being, even with just a breath, even with just three things that we're grateful for, or 3 good things for the day, if that's all we can muster now. And of course, I'd invite everyone to a more formal practice. But if all you could do was just remember to take a mindful breath a few times a day, over the coming weeks and months, you're going to notice a real difference for yourself and for those around you. And the people who engage in mindfulness practices, one of the very common things that they say is, I don't know whether I really noticed a difference, but so many people have noticed a difference about me. They say, you're different, you're brighter, you're more radiant, you seem more patient. So even if you may not notice it, people definitely notice it.
I wonder if that's kind of the message in terms of the answer to Kim's question. I'm just sitting thinking about it, because I know, what it's like when people are pushing our buttons and challenging us, how difficult it is to maintain composure and not lose your shit bang at them. But I just wonder if the more we practice mindfulness when things are great, then the calmer we're able to be and the more present we're able to be when things are not so great. It's, it's something that I think we can all take on, is to do this kind of work when things are fine. Because I don't think you do the work in the heat of the moment. I don't think you get your learning in the heat of the moment, because for the most part, we tend to head to our default reaction in the heat of the moment.
You can certainly do both. And mindfulness as a technique is twofold, really. So there's mindfulness as an intervention. So the most popular and practiced mindfulness intervention is mindfulness-based stress reduction, founded and developed by John Kabat-Zinn, and that is mindfulness as an intervention. So it's a technique to alleviate certain modes of mind. And then there's the other mindfulness practice for mindfulness for well-being, for connection, for being able to create the conditions in our heart mind so that we can be as effective as a human being for ourselves and for those around us as possible. So not as an intervention to stop or reduce anything, as effective as that is, but as a practice towards advancing ourselves into a more connected state. And so there's those two elements, and it works. It works amazingly. And we just know that there's a mode of our brain that is more effective than others. And the mode of our brain that's the most effective for most of the time is that slightly more positive than neutral, negative, or stressed. Stress is good. The little bursts of stress help us to get across the line. They help us to get those deadlines. They help us when somebody has cut us off, cut us off in the car in front of us. Where stress becomes unhelpful and destructive is when we chase that person because we're so angry with them. We chase that person through lights and down the street just so that we can pull the finger at them, and then somehow have a small hit of dopamine to go, yes, I told that sucker. Versus, stress, being able to shift that reaction and then let it go as quickly as we possibly can and not take it home. The other side of that is somebody cuts us off and we've had a fight at the office and we come home and yell at the kids, and the kids don't know why we're yelling at them, or we yell at our significant other. And so it's being able to have those mindful moments of taking a breath and pausing and unplugging from whatever it is. And that's not just our technology, but pausing and unplugging from the situation to be able to breathe and arrive. And when we do that, I'm so confident, because I've seen it over and over again, and I experience it in myself every single day, that we just make better choices. And we're not knocked off balance, and we're not knocked around as much by the people or our situations. It doesn't mean that we're not maybe a little bit, but it means that we do have the opportunity to catch ourselves. It just like eating well doesn't guarantee you're not going to get a bug, a flu. But what it does do is create the conditions in your system to allow your body to facilitate its best healing. Mindfulness practice is the same for our emotional well-being.
Do you think then if it comes down to, what about the people that eat badly, don't exercise, they stay skinny, they seem happy, they drink a lot, they do all the things that anyone on our network probably wouldn't, and yet they seem to be having a great life? What's your answer to that one, Miss Mindfulness?
Miss Mindfulness. Well, we all have this thing called a happiness set point. And so we all have a different happiness set point, and some people's happiness set point naturally is higher than others. And we tend to have, a happiness set point plus or minus 2 at any point in time. Things like divorce and death and difficulty can shift our set point, but not for any length of time. What we do know is that if Kim is the skinny, happy, do whatever she would love person and has a set point, a high happiness set point, that generally means that she's also got quite a few friends around her, that she's doing all of those things and those markers for our overall well-being, particularly those social ones. When your happiness set point is quite high, you naturally attract those into those situations into your world. What we can do with mindfulness, or there are lots of ways to shift your happiness or turn up the dial on your happiness set point. The one way I know that really works is mindfulness. So you're right, Kim. There are some people that are naturally like that, and I'd suggest that their happiness set point is quite high.
Right. Or they're highly drug induced.
Or they're on the psychedelics, and we psychedelics, those natural lovely herbs. Many of our contemplative practices utilize psychedelics, and often people will ask, what's the difference? If we can get a natural high through some herbs, why wouldn't we do that? There's one difference: it doesn't have lasting brain landscape change like formal meditation practice does. Just in case people are wondering.
What we're talking about there, though, also is vibration, isn't it? I mean, if you're talking about somebody having a naturally high set point, so the happier person is going to be more likely to attract happier experiences into their life. It's kind of the way that they are. So it's like
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's
so
in the
mindfulness
esoteric world. In the science world, it's called a happiness set point. In the esoteric world, it's called the field. You're vibrating high in the field. You're in your higher mind versus your lower mind. And if there's a continuum, then you're on the higher end of that vibrational scale.
Makes sense. Makes absolute sense why a person would put their attention to mindfulness as another tool to add to their kit bag in raising their vibrational frequency so that they can start to become more magnetic to universal ease and flow.
A great point, which is another, there are people, and we've all experienced people, and you three beautiful women are individually, you are that.
Sorry, it just cut out then. Can you just say that? Sorry, I just missed that bit. Can you just say that again? You
three beautiful, stunning, gorgeous, breathtaking, delicious women individually are magnets, but collectively, the whole, as in the three of you together, is a light that I have rarely come across. And so that, in terms of vibration, or that in terms of the science, that happiness set point, collectively, your whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And so we've all been around people who we can move into their presence and feel very different immediately, in a positive way. And I think we can also all remember a time when we've walked into the presence of someone and felt a prickling that wasn't necessarily great. And that's just, I think, an indication of our energies not being able to integrate very effectively, because they're so far on different ends of the spectrum, if you like, of that continuum.
And
does that make sense?
Like yes, it's like essential oils. We call that a synergistic effect or a synergy blend. So it's the same thing. And I've always thought of our networks and our group, and particularly when the three of us together, I can honestly say I feel better when I'm with these girls, and I feel better when I'm around all of you guys at the Wellness Summit. It's like it does. It completely raises all of our energy levels, even if any one of us are flat or have been sick. So what would you say then around, and I know we're coming to the end of our chat, but around your book and Mindfulness 2.0, is there strategies in there, say for things like illness or loss or grief or anxiety or all of those things that do crop up, and we all know we all get affected by many of these things throughout our life? Is there, apart from that meditation or that practice you said at the beginning, is there any other go-tos that any one of us could go to if we are feeling anxious or worried or nervous or any of those kind of sabotaging kind of beliefs?
Yeah, so probably the easiest, most simple one, and you don't need the book for this. The easiest one is when I always and I teach at the chiropractic college. I teach emotional intelligence to the DCs, the chiropractors to be at the chiropractic college. They're very lucky to be doing their inner work in parallel to all of their clinical work. And one of the things that I always say to them when they're stressy about their exams, I say, I think it's time that you hit the pub. And what we mean by that is the acronym pause, unplug, breathe. And then we liberate that present time consciousness, if you like, with a smile. So it's pubs, and it's all over the college. It's all through the book. Pause. So you just pause between the rushing. You pause whenever it's possible. You unplug from your technology, from the argument you had, from the difficulty, from your stress. You take a breath, and particularly the out breath. The out breath is what really activates out the rest and digest that and cools off our stress. And then you liberate that mindful energy with a smile. And a smile tells our brain that we're happy, even if it's just for a micro moment. So when in stress, hit the metaphoric pub.
I love it. I was thinking we were going to the pub.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
I know. We could do that,
Yeah.
and we could mindfully drink a beautiful glass of wine.
Yeah.
Champers.
But it's funny the connotations that a pub gives to me. Or if we do go to there, it's different for somebody else. So for me, an old English pub, sitting with Howie at a bar and just enjoying the ambience, compared to an Aussie pub that is loud and raucous. You know, so we can go any space we want to, even doing that acronym that you did with the pub.
Exactly, and remembering that most people who don't meditate but want to meditate have just created so many hurdles to meditation. So I'll meditate when I've got more time. I'll meditate when I can wear purple chiffon and burn incense and play nice music, and I've got 3 days to do that. I'll meditate when I'm not as angry. I'll meditate when I'm angry. And so it's just, all I can say is that, you know, the best time to meditate is as soon as we're born, if we could. The second best time is right now. Is just merely to take a breath. And actually, guys, we could all just take a nice deep in breath and a beautiful slow out breath in this moment.
Doing it now.
And we could liberate it with a sigh.
Yeah.
I've actually been doing a couple of them while every time you say breath, I go,
Yeah.
And one of them I really did let out a big sort of sigh, and then I was worried I didn't have my mute button on. So thankfully, I haven't said anything. So, yeah.
And it's interesting about the sigh. We don't sigh on the in-breath. We can't sigh on the out-breath.
Yeah.
And it's again, Cindy, it's that inherent, wired within us to know what we need to do to regulate our sympathetic system. Is if we breathe out, we're going to create that subtle invitation to cool off our stress.
amazing.
It's a good thing. Mindfulness is a great thing. I love it. I fall more deeply in love with it, with the practice and the idea and the philosophy every single day. And that's why I'm so passionate to get out to as many people as I can, just to let them know that they can take a breath, that there is value in noticing the small but frequent micro moments that Kim even talks about, of joy that do exist in our day. There is value in getting out and getting into nature and just taking our shoes off and walking in the grass, whether the grass is in a park or it's in a 5-star hotel. There's value. There's value in doing that. There's value in getting your shoes off and getting sandy toes. Just even if it's just for 1 minute.
And Vikki, I think that you are a beautiful example of creating a more calm energy when we're all in your space, and you just have such a beautiful energy that we all really, really like to take a breath with and emulate. And I just think your book, your work, your workshops, is there anything coming up that any of our listeners could know about that you're doing?
So not particularly in terms of events. There's an event later in the year, and I'm not a very good self-promoter. This is the plug zone, and I can't even plug anything. You can go onto my website, vikkikelly.com, and
but that's 2 Ks.
Yep, 2 Ks. Kelly, KELLY.com, and you can have a look. There's a survey there that you can do, which will give you a bit of a base point, a set point, if you like, of where you're at as how mindful you currently are, and how you might be able to advance towards a more mindful state through some of the practices. My book is online. I'm heading up to UC Berkeley in July. So probably this year more for me is a year of discovery. And I've been invited to UC Berkeley to a residency program at the Greater Good Science Centre up there with many of the contemplative science researchers and 14 other beautiful people who are taking mindfulness work out into the world. And we get to share a week together at UC Berkeley in the Greater Good Centre, learning about what other people are doing, but also learning the latest in the science and delivery of mindfulness-based programs out there in the world. So I'll be bringing that back later in the year, probably to a program in Melbourne, yet to be confirmed the date of that. So watch out for it on the website.
Fabulous.
Wonderful.
And can our listeners connect with you on Facebook, Vikki?
Yes, there's Mindful 2.0 on Facebook. There's my personal page. You can jump onto that. You can email me, Vikki@vikkikelly.com. You can see me in the street and snuggle me. I'm always up for a snuggle.
Yay. Oh, beautiful.
Yes, please don't be strangers. Reach out. I am always very willing and open to share in your joy or share in your difficulty, whatever, wherever you are in your world. And just to know that we're not alone. And there's my pussycat saying, "I'm alone."
Oh, beautiful. Awesome.
We
I
love
love
you,
it. Thank
darling.
you.
Oh, thank you girls so much for inviting me on to your show. I was so excited and a little bit scared and a whole lot starstruck when you invited me. So I love all the work that you do. And as I said, I have really come across such a bright, shining example of amazingness as you three all are. So I feel absolutely honoured to have shared this amount of time with you today. Thank you.
Oh, bless your sweetness. Yeah, absolutely. It takes one to know one. Yeah. Well, thank you, my love, for joining us. And for all of our listeners, please reach out to Vikki on her website, social media, build a relationship with this woman and start to follow her. And, use Vikki, if you like, as a reminder to be mindful. So when you see her posts rolling up on your news feeds or through your Instagram feeds, make sure that you're using her as a reminder that when you're present and you're mindful in the moment, that then makes the rest of your day calmer, more peaceful, and puts you back in the driver's seat and gives you a level of control that without the mindfulness you may not necessarily have reach for. So if you've got some comments or you've got some questions for our gorgeous Vikki or for us, head on over to our Facebook page at allthews.facebook.com/up-for-a-chat, or you can go to allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/up-for-a-chat. And join us here next week on Up for a Chat, where you become part of the ripple effect that's changing the world. And we're going to see you on the ride. Bye for now, everybody.
This year, the Wellness Summit returns.
The only lesson is ever going to be your learning. That's it. As long as you're learning, that's your lesson. When you stand in front of the mirror, the talk, the things that go on between these ears in the morning can also be what sets you up for a day. And if you've beaten yourself up for not being the most extraordinary person that you can be, then start now. We make it hard for ourselves. We make things difficult for ourselves because we go and apply a whole bunch of stories and a whole bunch of drama and a whole bunch of I'm not good enoughs to the things that occur in our lives. Wake the heck up. Today's a new day. And here's where it can change.
Kim Morrison and Karen Smith feature at the 2018 Wellness Summit. Bigger and better than ever. Tickets on sale Friday, May 4 at thewellnesssummit.com.
This has been a production of thewellnesscouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on facebook.com/thewellnesscouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.